early sketches. But pretty quickly, we realized there were some big questions to answer, and one of the biggest ones was which lands were going to break, right? We were kind of like, yeah, all of them. We were kind of like kids in a candy store. We were like, well, can we do Darkshore? What do you got? You know, can we do Orgrimmar? What's going on? Dare we say Stormwind? We had we did boards I can show you for all kinds of destruction. We had, let's see, lava boiling out of Ironforge there, or Firestorm through Thunder Bluff, or there's the Stone Talon Mountains exploding. I think we briefly considered setting the World Tree on fire, but we didn't go for that. Anyway, the game team was super helpful in sorting this all out with us. We did have some criteria for making those decisions. Number one, level of recognition. We really did want to depict places that hopefully you guys would recognize. Number two, balance, because we felt an obligation to share the pain between the Alliance and the Horde. And three, what we call the cool factor, which is really just the strength of the image itself. You know, the tidal wave looming over Booty Bay, that was an image where everybody just said, yeah, that sounds really cool, you know. Blowing up a Zeppelin over Orgrimmar, sounds great, let's do it. Deathwing on the gates of Stormwind, you know, absolutely. As soon as that idea came up, there was no doubt that we were going to do that. That was the second of our really big questions, and that's a thornier one, right? Which races do we want to feature? In the beginning of our process, we usually have this blue sky period where all ideas are welcome, and we talked a lot about, you know, Night Elves and Darkshore, Orcs and Orgrimmar, the disaster movie concept of people fleeing from the destruction, right? We even had the idea of staging an Alliance Horde battle out in front of the Greymane Wall right before the wall falls down. But what we kept coming back to was that this is really Deathwing's story. This is Deathwing versus the world, essentially. And ultimately, that's the path that we chose to follow. We did, however, there's Deathwing, about ready to destroy the world. But we did, however, really want to show the new playable races, the Goblins and the Worgen. The image of the Goblins evacuating their erupting island just sounded, you know, so mournful and visually rich, with the boats all steaming away. And I'm personally a big werewolf movie fan, so for me, the idea of Worgen streaming out of the Greymane Wall was very appealing. And you can see these storyboards here show how we plan to make those introductions. So why didn't we, right? Well, we usually cast a pretty wide net story-wise at first, and then we go back in and we prune and we refine. And what we kept asking ourselves was, what is essential? What is key? You know, Deathwing devastates Azeroth, gotta have that, right? So as a test, I went back to the animatic and just clipped out that Goblin Worgen section and pulled the two halves of the edit together. And honestly, you guys, it just worked right out of the gate. It felt cleaner, it felt more focused. One thing is that we always knew we had in our pocket the option to do these introductions in gameplay. And when we get to Terran's part of the discussion, I think you're going to see that what his team was able to do with those intros was way more expansive than what we had planned. So it all worked out really well in my view. And frankly, this movie was called Cataclysm. So we felt the need to really bring the Cataclysm. We had a lot on our plate as it was. Anyway, while all that was going on, our team of intrepid concept artists was trying to answer the next big question, which is, what does Deathwing look like? Now, Deathwing had been pretty well established in lore, of course, the novels, but he'd never actually been depicted visually in that much detail. I mean, everybody knows the little thumbnail and some of the cool Chris Metzen drawings, but to have a really comprehensively epic design for Deathwing, that was one of our top priorities. Again, we we had this brief blue sky period where we encouraged the concept artists to go crazy and just draw all kinds of cool dragons. We wanted Deathwing to be, nasty and aggressive and unique looking, but we also looked very hard at Syndragosa and the other WoW dragons because we wanted Deathwing to have their DNA, to feel like part of that family. Let me see what else we got going here. Yes, Deep Home. Cinematics was also encouraged to take point on developing the look of Deathwing's lair in Deep Home, since that portion of the game was still in the early stages of development. It usually takes us about a year to do a WoW intro, so we need to get out in front of the game as soon as possible. In this case, the idea that developed was that millennia ago, the Titans had created this majestic chamber defined by these towering columns, and it was beautiful until Deathwing showed up and basically defiled the place with his presence. Once again, the game team gave us a lot of help in designing the look of this place, including, let me get to it because it's really cool. My clicker doesn't want to advance to that. Maybe the secret clicker could help. Isn't that a cool one, by the way? There we go. There we go. We also have creative development. There we go. There we go. We got these designs actually from the game team itself. And the beautiful designs for the cranes and the battering rams that are used to hammer plates into Deathwing's skin. Speaking of Deathwing, let me see if I can get this next one up here. I want to show you this cool concept that came from creative development. This guy represented something of a turning point for us. You can see certain details which made it into the final design, but what this guy really represented for us was an attitude. This guy here, he just looks tough and battle-scarred and kind of crazy. So this gave us something of a compass heading to steer by. We were also really excited about this idea that Deathwing's rage manifests itself literally as this boiling lava inside him. He is the Earth Warder, so like the Earth itself, he's full of the stuff, and he actually needs these metal sutures or plates to hold that molten fury in and contain it. This design here is an example of that concept. Everything was going pretty well, but we were still looking for something else, something signature that would set Deathwing apart from the other dragons. Now, over the course of the Warcraft saga, Deathwing's armor has been retrofitted and replenished numerous times. So for this incarnation, we thought about doing something with the jaw. And initially we went back to this guy here and just started cribbing metal jaws onto it. It was kind of like, well, okay, that's kind of cool. What if we just made it bigger? And so we just kept making the jaw bigger. Until we got to this point and decided, okay, let's show it to the game team. And the immediate reaction was, oh yeah, that's him. That's our guy. Now, there was still a ton more design work to do. I mean, check out all these variations. We were looking for just the right silhouette, the right combination of body style, wing height, neck length. But for me personally, that moment when we saw Deathwing's face in that meeting, that was very, very cool. Design is cool. It's super fun. But as these guys will attest to, it's only the beginning of the process, right? I mean, it's one thing to draw cool stuff, and it's quite another to translate that into 3 dimensions. So, for that next part of our talk, let me hand off this wonderful clicker to Seth Thompson.